we'll start with, your book is titled Do Epic Shit. We'll start with your epic shit. How do your work falls within the intersection of life hacks, productivity, creativity, financial advice, um, all these things. And you're doing it through technology. One of the enabling factors, one of the accelerators to it is technology. Especially during the COVID time, your popularity increased. YouTube videos were watched by a lot of people. Until some people started complaining that we are getting annoyed by those ads. Um, but technology is kind of so for so many people, it's a hindrance.
Yeah.
It blocks your work. How do you make technology work for you?
That's a great question to start. But firstly, I should acknowledge everyone. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be at the KLF. And thank you, Nidheesh, for hosting me. Technology is fascinating. How many of you here use WhatsApp? Show of hands. Everyone. How many of you here are above the age of 40? Quite a few of you. How many of you here have parents who use WhatsApp? Show of hands. Parents who use WhatsApp. Are you shocked at that? Like, did you expect your parents to use WhatsApp at some point of time? Are there any? I am shocked at how much my mom, who's aged 70, uses not just WhatsApp, but emoticons to actually express what she's truly feeling. And I was like, Mom, how did you even know that there is an emoticon for this emotion? I am perplexed. And that always brings me to the best thing about technology is there is enough and more intellect that tries to make technology smart. But technology's purpose is not to be smart. Technology's purpose is to be useful. And there's a big distinction between being smart and being useful. WhatsApp is immensely useful. And it doesn't even pretend to be smart. It's not like, oh, you need to be a tech genius or anything like that to use me. I can be used by a child or a 60, 70-year-old with equal finesse. So my only admission when you think of technology is don't try and be smart using technology. Don't try and pretend that you will become smart using it. Don't try and pretend that you will talk about how you're using it with somebody else. No. Just ask yourself, what's the basic functionality I need to achieve? And what is a tool or a product or an application that helps me get there? I'll give you one simple example, and that may hopefully land well. A lot of times, I come across things in life that I absolutely love, but I'm not ready for in that moment. For example, I may, let's say, have met you, and I was like, you know what, Nidheesh is a really interesting character. I love his work. I may want to do something with him one day, but not right now. So what do? I go to Gmail, I draft out an email to myself. I met Nidheesh, here's what he's done, really liked his profile, think we can work together, maybe not the right time, whatever it is that I want to share in great detail, and then I will schedule the email to be sent to my inbox a year from now. So it will not come to me right now, it will not remain in my drafts, it will be an email that comes to my inbox a year from now, when I would have completely forgotten about you. Not to suggest that I want to, but I may. And that is, for me, such a simple use of technology to be productive, where you're reminding yourself of what to do in the future, depending on what happened to you right now, and you're not using any smart tool to get it, just a very simple one to get it.
But so you don't end up using more time than you have to do on Instagram, Twitter, social media?
Oh, that's an addiction, by the way. How many of you here are addicted to social media? Rest are not. Very impressed. Liars. Here's the admission. If you believe that self-motivation and self-control is going to work for you when you want to stop watching social media, all the best, not going to happen. The world's best engineers, the best hands-down engineers, are working 24/7 to get you addicted to these apps. None of us have any hope in hell. So when people ask me, hey, I'm addicted to Instagram, I'm addicted to YouTube, I'm addicted to Netflix, whatnot, my first response is delete the app. That's the best way to do it. If you can't, my second response is put a time blocker. Just put a time blocker. All my apps have a time blocker. Then people are like, oh, when the time gets up, I can always extend the time. Well, great. Third step, put a password to the time blocker. And you should not know that password. Your best friend who hates you to get productive should know the password. Because he or she will not share it with you ever, even in your desperate moment. So my password is known by my wife, and she knows that she can't share it with me. And when my 1 hour on Instagram is over, it's over. And I'm always mindful of the fact that I only have 1 hour. But I also know that if it's desperate, I can give the phone to her and say, please enter the password, I need 15 minutes more. It's like she's the drug peddler, and I'm asking for the drug.
You have to beg for your Instagram. That's
Which is the story of my life, yes.
Please walk us through your journey. Like if there is anyone who is kind of, seeing you for the first time here or something. And also, I mean, while walking through that journey, you yourself have written in your book that you're not genius, you are not Steve Jobs of this generation or anything. Yet you connect with so many people. You have something within you, within your communication skills that relates to people, especially to the younger generation. But I think it's not just younger generation, there's a lot of people. So please walk us through that journey. And do you remember the day when you realized that, this is what I need to do? It might change tomorrow, but do you remember that day?
It's an interesting question you asked, Nidheesh, because we are fed on a lot of movie culture in this country. And the one thing that the movie culture does, amongst several other things it does, is it convinces us that there's always a moment in somebody's life when their life changes. Like there is this moment. Wo Shah Rukh Khan, NASA scientist, visits India, and there is this moment where he's sold water when he's sitting on that railway station and he's just like, Swades, and it happens there. Yeah. And I wish real life was like that because that would make it really, really cool. Real life isn't like that, and all of us can testify for that. Life happens to us in bits and pieces every single day, nudging at us, getting something out of us, and eventually we shape up into the person we become. So if there's anyone who's telling you that this was a moment that changed, they're basically just writing a script for you to appeal to. But nonetheless, the story of my life has wonderfully been multiple changes over a course of a really long life. I'm 43 years of age. I feel completely young, no more than 28, just as every 28-year-old feels that they're 43 and beyond. Exactly the opposite sentiment. And I wasn't meant to be here. I wanted to become a space scientist. I was working towards getting a PhD, becoming a doctor, going to NASA, working there. And I went to the US for my PhD, spent 2 years in trying to get that PhD, was really good at getting that PhD, but hated every bit of it. So I dropped out of it and came back to India, reset my life completely again, did an MBA, became a management consultant, and then after 3 years of doing that, I started up in 2009. And I've been doing that ever since. And every single thing that's happened in my life has been a realization of I can do more and more and more. So one of my favorite lines from Do Epic Shit, the book, is we have only one life, why live it with just one identity? And what I mean by that is, if I were to reach out to you and ask you, hey, good to meet you, what do you do? The worst response that you can give me is a designation at a company. Because that almost feels your entire life, your existence, your individuality, your personality is boiled down to that designation at that company. You don't see yourself in any broader way. Because you are a father, you're a mother, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're a friend, you're an artist, you're an author, you're a singer, you're an actor, you're a guitarist, you are a surfer, you are a scuba diver, and hajar other things that you would want to be. And yet we just think of ourselves as just that one identity more often than not. If you were to ask me, hey, what do you do? My response is, how much time do you have? Because I can go on and on. I do so many things and I love doing all of those things that I cannot boil it down to one thing. So I often feel that my life has been about the realization that there is so much more in me than just what I'm doing at that moment. And I always make it a point to test that out. It may work, may not work, but at least I will not die regretting that I wish I tried that one aspect that I was drawn towards, but some fear in me stopped me from doing that.
And you succeeded.
Well,
You think
success is a very,
Relative.
very relative and very misused word because success almost feels like an outcome,
The thing
but
is,
it never
you
is.
know, when you say do epic shit, see the problem with a lot of people is they don't want, it's not like they don't want to do epic shit, but they don't know what they want to do actually.
Sure.
So to get to that evolutionary point where you actually know that this is what I want, and I'm so glad that you pointed out it's not an event, it's a process.
Yes.
So how do you get to that, that point where you're so convinced that this is what you want? And
You
you
never
have
do.
been someone, it's not an easy journey for you from what you're saying, you had your own setbacks, but still you pursue that particular trajectory.
And that's a great question, Nidheesh. I'll explain that. So first, let me try and tell you what do epic shit really means to me, and what it breaks down into. It has 3 words: do, epic, and shit, which is obvious. But each of these 3 words have a meaning attached to that. Number 1, do, and do means action is greater than thought. How many of you have heard of someone else's success and their story, and in your head you reacted, but I knew of this 5 years back. Oh, I had this idea 10 years back. Oh, I had thought of this when I was in college. Well, you know what? You didn't do anything about it. Someone else did. They won. Too bad. Action will always be greater than thought. Nobody will get rewarded for their ideas. You'll only get rewarded if you work on what is there in your head and bring it to reality. Epic means that we are all born in an orbit. It could be a financial orbit, it could be a social orbit, it could be a value-based orbit, whatever is it that you define. Your job in life should ideally become to escape your orbit to move to the higher order. Whether it's financial, whether it's social, whether it's in your own head, you're doing something that is bigger than you. So that at the end of it, you don't feel like, oh my God, I only lived for myself and I don't have anything left that will stay even when I am gone. So epic is doing something bigger than you. That doesn't mean the world will get to see it. It doesn't mean that it is going to make you a public figure or a celebrity. It simply means you're doing something bigger than who you are. That's it. And shit is colloquial for you having fun while you're doing it. You're not dragging your feet. You're not like, oh my God, another Monday morning, I have to get up and do this again? For how long? No. You actually feel energetic while you're doing it. You feel that you love it. It comes naturally. So do epic shit is about doing something that's bigger than you and having fun while doing it. And when you start thinking of that, it doesn't attach itself to any standard success definition. There is no, oh, you have to earn $1 million or become a crorepati. It's not about you have to be followed by these many people. It is not about this is the layer of success. It becomes a very personal definition that you either enjoy or not.
I want to ask you some specific questions because
Please.
I want the audience to leave with, some actionable piece of advice. What are your morning rituals like? And also, I think so many of us have morning rituals, but the problem is what do you do on the second day? All of us go to gym on Jan 1st, but what do you do on the second day?
Exactly. How many of you here have a morning ritual? Okay, about 5%. How many of you here want to have a morning ritual? Okay, about 10%. The others don't. And it's totally okay if you don't. How many of you here want to get up early but struggle to? Get up early but struggle to. Yeah, that's a bigger number, 80% or so.
It's like, you frame that question in another manner and a lot of...
Yeah, it's like I just literally laid the trap for everyone to fall in. So here's the thing about waking up early, and I'll then follow it up with the morning ritual I have. A lot of people believe that waking up early is about waking up early. It's not. Waking up early is about sleeping on time. It's not about waking up early. You cannot wake up early if your body is not rested. So you can only wake up early if you've slept on time and you've given your body enough rest for it to. And that means your work starts from the night before. When you are drugged into that Instagram, Netflix, and just hooked, and you're like, no, just 10 minutes more. And that 10 minutes becomes an hour, that is when you have stopped your morning routine to even unfold. So here's what happened, and this is a true story, by the way. My son was 4 years old, and he was told in school to make a family portrait as part of his painting class, drawing class, whatever. And he made a stick figure of my wife, him, and me. And when I saw that stick figure, it struck me that I was holding a phone in my hand. Because that's how he saw me. I was in the dead center of my startup grind, working 18 hours, 20 hours, showing up late. I was hardly getting to spend time with him, and he saw his dad as somebody with a phone in his hand and not his hand. And that just hit me hard. It just bled me to death in some way. So I said, if I can't be there when he is sleeping, I better be there when he's waking up. So I started waking up early. And that was the motivation for me to do so. And when I started doing it, it actually worked, and it worked really well. So I started doing it more and more, and to the point that it's been nearly 10 years, and I stick to this. This is the morning routine. And I shared this not to impress upon you that I am awesome. So please don't take it the other way. I share this to tell you that this works for me. And you have to craft something that works for you. I get up between 4:30 and 5 every day. I sleep between 9 and 9:30 every day, which means I say no to most social gatherings, most dinners, most weddings, and I'm totally okay missing out on all of those. I will, of course, go to my best friend's wedding and to my best relatives, whatnot, but I'm not going to show up at some random conference just because they want me there. I value my sleep a lot more. 9:30, lights out, wake up at 4:30, and the first thing I do is I have a glass of water, and I take 15 minutes to have it. So I sip my glass of water. I don't gulp it down. I genuinely enjoy it. I call it waking up slowly. It's the best way to wake up. Most of us wake up rushed, just in time for what we have to do. I try and do the exact opposite. Then I meditate for half an hour. I read a book for half an hour. And then I either practice singing, because I really like singing and I've been learning how to sing, or I write for half an hour. At that point, I wake up my kids and get them ready for school. My wife has already left in the meantime to play tennis at about 5:30 in the morning. She comes back at 6:30. The kids are ready. Then her job is to drop them at the bus stop. I leave 6:30 to play tennis. I play till 7:30. Then I go to the gym, come back at 8:30, read the newspaper. I still love reading the newspaper, and I devote that 15, 20 minutes. Thoroughly enjoy it. I'm still carrying the newspaper here. I just love reading it. And then by 9 or so, I go for a shower. By 9:30, I sit on my desk to start work. Here's the kicker, which is why this morning routine works for me. When I sit down to work at 9:30, I've had 5 hours to myself, doing things that I love doing for myself. 5 hours. How many of you are able to give 5 hours to yourself every day? I am able to, and that's why it works for me. It's not because I wake up early. It's because I do the things that I want to do for myself. And once that is done, very little can disturb my centering. I'm centered. I am rock solid for the rest of the day. And yeah, shit will happen, shit will go and whatnot. But I will be centered because I gave myself the time that I deserved. And that's the same thing that you have to do. When I often ask, hey, what is the objective of your morning routine? People are like, oh, I have to be productive, I have to meditate, I have to read, I have to do this. Nah, don't follow someone else's routine. The right definition of a morning routine is you doing things that you love for yourself before the world starts demanding things from you. That's the definition of a morning routine. And if you're able to do that for however long you can, you'll center yourself.
How do you do it on day 2?
How do I do my?
Do it on day 2. On the second day.
The thing about, okay, so because you asked about the Jan 1st. So how many of you, hand on heart, no one's going to lie here. How many of you made the promise of losing weight this year? Getting fit this year? Eating healthy this year? Yeah, rest, liars. This is a bunch of liars. I love them.
We are Malayalis. We know what to show and what to hide.
I love the honesty. So here's my gift to you. Because I'm at KLF for the first time, I feel generous. I'm going to give you a free gym membership. But this gym is a very distinct gym. It's a very different one. So I have to lay out the terms and conditions of the gym. Number one, the gym does not have any mirrors. It does not have any mirror, so you can't see yourself, either working out or your body or anything. Number two, the gym does not have a weighing scale or a measuring tape. So you can't measure how much you weigh, you can't measure what your waist is, your chest is, your biceps is, not. And number three, which is the best thing about the gym, when you're working out, there's nobody else working out at the gym. There's nobody else. It's only you, not even a trainer. Just you, zoned in, working out. How many of you would love going to this gym? Okay, the introverts are all like, yay, best thing ever. I hate small talking with people. To all those who are raising your hand, which is less than 5%, I guarantee you that in 2 weeks you will hate this gym. You will absolutely hate this. And here's the reason why. As humans, the thing we strive on the most is a sense of progress. It's not actually achieving what we want to achieve. It's the feeling that we are working towards achieving what we want to achieve and progressing towards that. That drives us every day. So it's crazy that we don't feel as much happiness in reaching a destination as we feel in working towards that destination. And that is what this gym will take away. Because you will not have any sense of progress. No feedback at all. Even you working hard, you can't see yourself, you can't measure yourself. There's nobody telling you, hey, Nidheesh, you're looking fit, man. Are you losing weight? Are you working out? There's nothing that's telling you you're progressing. And you will hate that journey. The same thing happens for any commitment you make in life. It's not about getting to a point. It is about feeling a sense of progress. And it is intensely important that whatever you pick up to do in life, you start with not asking, where will this take me? Instead, you ask yourself, how do I know that I am progressing? So when you ask day 2, everything that you did on day 1, and day 2 is of course a placeholder, you don't really mean day 2, but whatever you did on day 1, if that didn't leave you with a sense of progress, feeling good, not knowing exactly what worked, but surely knowing that something worked, you will show up the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
It's about motivation.
It's actually the exact opposite of that, if you may allow me to.
Sure.
Motivation is garbage. Motivation is our worst friend ever. Because it never shows up when we need it. It only shows up when we don't ever need it. Like nobody needed motivation to sleep for 15 more minutes. Nobody said, oh, I wish I had the motivation to sleep more. Nobody said, I wish I had the motivation to eat more. Everybody is motivated to do random things.
It's become a sort of like a cliche to say.
It is. Like we're looking for something we will never find because that's a bloody good excuse to not do what we should be doing. I'm waiting for motivation. I will instead say, if you focus on progress and genuinely sitting with yourself to ask, how is it that I am better off than who I was yesterday? This thing called motivation will automatically come in.
There was this writer who said, a lot of people write because they're inspired to write. But lucky for me, I get inspired at 9 o'clock sharp every morning. So, but also along that trajectory, people change. Their ideas change. What they want to do yesterday, you're saying they can find a way today, they can do it today also. But you have yourself, you wore many hats. So what if you want to change? And how do you make note of this thing that, this is not exactly me. I want to change.
I think you answered the question when you asked this, because when people ask me, when is the right time to change, Ankur? My response is the day you ask the question. Because something provoked you to ask the question. Something in you which you may not want to come to terms with fully, or you may not be able to fully understand, is nudging you to consider change. And if that is happening, it's the moment for you to be truthful to yourself and start going into that journey. You may not find the answer immediately, you may not even find an answer that you like, but you will find an answer that you need, which is, something ought to change. That doesn't mean, and it is always a strong placeholder, it doesn't mean you will know what you should do next. It will only tell you what you're doing may not be enough for who you have become. And then the journey starts on what else can you do.
Can you share us a personal anecdote on that?
Sure. So the best example that I can give is when I was in the US doing my PhD. And I was in a pretty good university on 100% scholarship, top of my class, doing the thing that I wanted to do, by the way, all my life. And yet, if I stood in front of the mirror and asked myself, am I feeling what I thought I would be feeling? The answer was no. I wasn't feeling overjoyed, excited to face the day. None of that was happening. So I began to have these conversations with myself. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I realized that what I was doing in life, which was physics at that point of time, was something that I was really good at, but it didn't make me happy. And the reason I was confused is because I was doing something that I was really good at. So the world and me kept telling myself, continue doing it because you're good at it. So you'll get everything that is an outcome of success. You'll get that money, that fame, that respect, that great job, blah, 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 blah. But I was asking myself a very different question, which was, if I continue doing this, will I be happy? Innately, within happy. And I couldn't convince myself that the answer was a yes. And that meant I had to change. Did I know what I would be doing? Absolutely not. At 24, I came back to India, completely clueless, no idea what I should be doing in life. And 24 is considered quite old back then. Right now, it's like, oh, if you don't know what you want to do by 24, you're dead. And I was completely confused. And then there were some people who said, hey, you're confused, so why don't you do what most confused people do, go get an MBA. So I'm like, sure. And I did that, and the life just started working out. But I still, till a really long time, didn't know where it would take me.
It's like, there are a lot of people who are probably right now in that position where you were back then. But the one thing that stops them from being, doing what they like is probably, the aversion to risk. And it's also not something, there are larger forces involved here. They might have to provide for the family. It might be a good job. It might, the month-end salary, that kind of, that's a big thing for many people. So how do you, kind of balance this out? One actionable piece of advice on that.
So I'll give you the two situations. One is that you have no choice but to make money. And number two is you have choice that you may not have to rely on money completely and you could figure something else. If you're in the first bucket, which is you have no choice but you have to make money because you have to provide for your family or for your own self, there's no support whatsoever, get a job. Get any job that doesn't physically or mentally destroy you, but don't worry about whether the job will take you to where you want to be in life, because that most likely will not be the job. That job just needs to pay for your survival. It needs to pay for your bills and should, very important, not physically or mentally destroy you. Most people get fixated on that job because they want to qualify that job. Oh, that job is not respectful enough. That job is not worthy enough. That job is not with enough growth. It will not take me to where I want to be in life. But that shouldn't be and can't be the purpose of that job because you don't even know what you want to do in life. Instead, if you find that job that pays for your bills, you focus on only one thing. Taking out as much time as you can for yourself. Your nights, your weekends, your holidays, whatnot. And you have to then kickstart a journey of discovery, of exploration, where you don't know where you will go, but you kick off these small projects, if you will. You start considering writing, maybe I'll enjoy that. Digital marketing, maybe I'll enjoy that. Video editing, maybe I'll enjoy that. Content creation, maybe I'll enjoy that. Engineering, coding, maybe I'll enjoy that. Whatever the case may be. And you don't put any pressure of making money on that exploration because that job is paying for your needs. And you use your time. It will be 6 months, 12, maybe 18, 24, and you will find an answer. It is natural that a journey of exploration will lead you to a destination which you may not have chosen when you started with, but certainly you ended up at. The second one is even better, which is there is no pressure on you to make money. Maybe someone else is feeding you, maybe you're sponsored, or maybe you just found a way of living below your means in a great manner. If that is the case, then please don't make the mistake of settling. The one thing that we love to do in India is to settle. And everyone in their 20s is told, settle. Finish your education, settle. Get a job, settle. Get married, settle. Have kids, settle. Buy that house, settle. Settle, settle, settle. And we're constantly under this pressure to settle that we believe if we are not settling or deciding what we will be doing for the rest of our life, we're a loser. And I'll argue anybody who stands in front of you telling you to settle, they are not settled themselves. They have no idea what they will be doing in life in the next 5 years. But they pretend that they know it all. But everyone, including your parents, are figuring their shit out. So please don't force yourself to settle. We're living in a world which is unprecedented. Nobody knows how to live in this world today, least of all your parents. And I don't mean any disrespect to them. They were just raised in a very different context. So they do not fully understand what is it that you sit on as an opportunity. And I'm speaking to 20-year-olds right now. All the 20-year-olds, you have no idea what you can do with your life if you were to start a journey of exploration. Where you'll be like, I don't want to settle. Instead, I will figure what all I can do. And by the time I am 30, I will have chosen something that I will spend the next decade on trying to make the best of. And by the time you're 40, either you're so good with your work that it doesn't feel like work anymore, or you've made so much money that you don't have to work for money anymore. And that is a reality that you all sit on, which as much as they wanted, our parents did not have the opportunity to. They just didn't, irrespective of how smart they were or how hard they worked. You have a very different set of opportunity. So if you're forced to earn money, please do that. Don't dismiss it. That's your responsibility. But don't make it your life's goal to become the employee of the month in that job. That's not the job for you. You still explore, but you keep that job in there. And if you don't have to force yourself to make money, explore while paying for yourself, and don't try to settle as fast as the world forces you to. Explore. I have a team of interns and full-timers, of course, all in the age band of 20 to 24. And all of them are living the life that I wish everyone lived. They don't come from privileged backgrounds. All of them are from tier 2, tier 3 cities, have moved to a bigger city or still continue to be in their city. They have investment corpuses of 20, 30, 40, 50 lakh rupees. My 22-year-old intern who leads my YouTube channel has a corpus of 24 lakhs the last I checked.
This is in the last 2 years or 3 years?
In the last 2.5 years. And he always wanted to go to IIT, didn't make it, felt like a failure all his life, felt he let down his parents, started interning in the last year of his college because college was just a disaster. And he's never looked back. Never looked back. And I tell him, not just him, but everyone else, I have a 20-year-old intern who's in first year of college, hates going to college because it doesn't serve any purpose, but only goes there to keep her parents at bay, and like that's the best use of college. And is interning. And she is earning more than the average placement that her college provides at the end of the 3-year gig. And she's only 20. And I tell all of them, you have no idea where you will be when you are 30. Like you can't even imagine, but I can see it already, where you will be when you will be 30. You'll be far ahead of every 50-year-old right now. And you will have the choice to never ever work for money, should you not want to, when you hit that number and that age. And I love that. Again, not people with privilege or with any special skills, just intensely not committing to a story that the world has been selling them.
There's another problem that I see in what you're saying, and I wanted to really, pick your brains on that. I'll give you a specific example. And I think this is something that many in the audience, especially women, would kind of relate. If you are a woman in India and if you get a job, that's a big deal. Then you get married, you have kids. The first year of pregnancy or the first year after pregnancy, you may want to take a break, or you want to spend time with your kid for the first 2 years or something. You see, there's no paymaster in India who will give you a 2 years, paid leave.
Yep.
There are only few people who will give you a sabbatical, an unpaid leave.
Yep.
But then, there are not so many of that. So
Sure.
you'll have to take a break in your career.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to get back to the treadmill. But then you may not want to do the same jobs. Let's say this woman was a banker or something. You may not want to do the same job again. So you see, in this country, getting a job itself is a big deal.
Yeah.
In the first place, that itself is a big deal. So how do there are not even avenues for people to do what they want to do. Do you feel like that there's not enough, things that hold their hand and kind of,
Sure. To answer that question, I'll use my wife's story without her permission, and we'll see how it reacts. So my wife had a wonderful career. She graduated in 2004 or so. She always wanted to work in the media business. So she started working with Outlook Traveler because she loves traveling as well, and she felt that everyone who works at Outlook Traveler travels, which is not true. And then she's like, oh, this was illusion. Let me now go to Discovery Channel. So she actually went to Discovery because she thought everyone at Discovery Channel is traveling. Not true. And then by 2010, she had worked for about 6 years or so. We were married in 2007, and she's like, I'm done. I want to take a break. So in 2010, she took a break, and we had our first child in 2011. She wanted to then be a full-time mother, pretty much the same story that you said. So she's like, I want to devote to raising Vidur, and it was like, great. So she did that till 2013. And then till about 2014 or so, when Vidur was 3 years old, she was like, I'm ready to go back to the workforce. And at that point in time, I asked her an important question, which is the same question that every one of you should also be asking, irrespective of whether you are a woman or a man, and also your age, which is, do I have to work because I need the money, or do I have to work because I want to feel engaged and useful? Thankfully, we were in a spot where she didn't have to work for money, because I was working enough and I was happy to support the entire family. And I convinced her, and I'm glad that she listened to me in the way that she received it well. Please don't go looking for a job that you may or may not like. Instead, because you don't have to work for money, go and explore what is it that you would want to do. And she set out on that journey. She had been in sales for the first 6 years and the only 6 years that she had worked in her career. So she's like, that's what I know and that's what I love. But I want to sell for people that I can relate to. So she started representing creative agencies who are really good creating but are terrible selling. Animators, videographers, photographers, who are really good with their art but are terrible with negotiation, with pricing, with getting payments out of the client and all of that, which she was so good at. Like, I'm going to do this, and for every sale that I make for you, I'll take a commission. And that worked out, and she did it for 2 years. In the journey of those 2 years, she came across this startup in organic farming. And she started representing them for their sales. And she discovered a lot about organic farming. And she fell in love with organic farming. So she's like, you know what, drop everything and I'm going to join this startup. Which was the first time she got a salary after almost 5 years. And that salary was a princely sum of 15,000 rupees a month. But I've never seen her happier working, as I said, when I saw her working there. She was on the farm, learning everything about organic farming, in the sun of Delhi, toiling, making it understand, work and whatnot. And she did that for 2.5 years. Absolutely loved it. And again, she was doing something that she loved. She didn't have to work for money. She didn't have the pressure of making money work and so on. And then after those 3.5 years, which was around 2021, I asked her, will you become my manager because I need help? And she's like, well, am I already not your manager? But no, that's not what she said. She's like, sure, what does it mean? I was like, you have to take the business side of it, represent me to all the brands and all the queries that we get, And that's what she's doing. So she's working with me now, and we're working together. And I cannot even begin to tell you how joyful it is working together, because I didn't fully understand whether it will work out or not. Neither did she. We went in with a little bit of trepidation, but we're having the best time of our life working together. And I love this story, not because it's my wife's story. I love this because it is an honest story about being honest to your own self. Do I need to work for money, or do I need to work to be useful? If I need to work for money, go back to the first step that I said. Get a job. Don't optimize for your career and your fulfillment and your contentment. Just get the money. Just get that money, as long as it doesn't physically and mentally destroy you. And devote your nights, your weekends, your holidays towards exploring what is it that you want to do in life. If you don't have the pressure of making money, please don't settle. Explore. She did that, and she's a great example, and I know so many of other people like that, where whether by choice or by compulsion of how the society and the workplace is oriented, you don't sit on as many opportunities, but you take it by your hands and say, I'm going to create my own opportunities and figure out what it is.
On the question of making money, you see, we are in Kerala right now. It's considered as a, sorry, it's considered as a wealthy state and all that. And to an extent, it's true. The per capita savings of Keralites have grown up considerably since the 1980s, mostly because of the NRA money coming in. But you see, a famous rich businessman in Kerala once told me that, see, I am just one generation away from becoming what my grandfather was, which was a farmer. So, in a generation, everything can be lost. It's not like we are very irresponsible with money. Like, we drink a lot. If you are in Kottayam, after 5 or 6 p.m., you will be asked not coffee or tea. You'll be asked soda or water. So, but we are not that irresponsible with money. But there are a lot of things that needs to be fixed, like elsewhere in India. What are your top 5 advices for people who earn a salary, who wants to get rich, wealthy, and free in their life?
I'll give you 3 because I think that's enough. Number 1, don't try and get rich fast. The best and the worst mistakes are made when you try and get rich fast. You try and get rich slowly. And slowly doesn't mean that you spend your entire life making money that you will not have the luxury to enjoy once you have it. Slowly simply means that you're not taking unnecessary risks and gambling with that money when you don't have to. Honest admissions. How many of you regularly invest in the stock market? Why is this number less than 5% whenever I ask? Why is this number less than 5%? And I'll tell you why. Because you think that the stock market is a gamble. Because you think that the stock market is all about your price going up, but you're also losing a lot of money. That is trading. It's not stock market investing. It's not what Harshad Mehta used to do. And 1992 scam made us all aware of it. Here is a question for all of you. If you were to invest in the stock market for 1 year, what's the probability that you will lose your money? What is the probability that you will lose your money if you invest in the stock market for 1 year? Give me a number. Probability. What is that number? Come on. No wrong answers. Sorry? 10%? Okay, anybody else? 100%? Did someone say 100%? 100% lose the money. I love that. Like, sir is, I'm the complete anti-advertisement of a stock market. Anybody else? Between 10 to 100%? The probability that you will lose money if you invest in the stock market for 1 year is 50%. That means it is just as likely that you will make money as it will be for you to lose money. Let me ask another question. What's the probability that you will lose money in the stock market if you were to invest for 5 years? If you were to invest for 5 years, what's the probability that you will lose money? It's not 0. It's 15%. 15%. That means if you were to invest in the stock market for 5 years, there's a 15% chance you will lose money. What's the probability that you will lose money if you invest in the stock market for 10 years? 0. 0. Zero. There has never been any decade in India where somebody lost money invested in the stock market. Pick any 10 years in the entire existence of the stock market. I will give you a better metric. What's the probability that if you invested in the stock market for 10 years, you will not just make money, you will make more than 8% return, which is what no FD can give you. What is the probability that you will make more than 8% return in the stock market if you invest for 10 years? What is the probability? 100%. I'll say this standing up. Cameras, sir, on it. You have a very important job, sir. You ready? The probability of you making more than 8% in the stock market, if you were to invest for more than 10 years, is 100%. 100%. Any 10-year period, any stock market. Why is only 5% invested? What are you doing with your money? Putting it into FD and losing the value of it every year? Putting it in gold and giving away making charges? Putting it in real estate and paying brokerage and fees and whatnot? I don't dismiss all of that. Please use them as well. But for you to believe that the stock market is a gamble of your money, when you're sitting what will be inarguably the best 20, 30 years of money making that this country has ever seen, is a pity. And my job is not to change the world. My job is, of this lot here, if you were to go back home and just open up a demat account and just say, you know what, that guy sounded like a loony. I will not trust somebody like him who's shouting at the top of his voice. But he sounded convincing enough that I'll put 500 rupees a month as SIP. Just start that. Just start a monthly investment of 500 rupees in a mutual fund and see slowly your money relationship improving. Because you are not being irresponsible with your money. You're actually being the most respectful towards the money that you work so hard towards making every day. You work so hard to make your money, so hard, that it's shocking to me you don't work hard so that the money works for you. Why wouldn't you do that? That's so stupid. You're at a literature fest, for God's sake. All of you are intellectual, people of well-meaning, with reasoning and judgment. And you work intensely hard every single day to make that money and be flippant with what happens to that money afterwards. And actually believe that you are not rich, that you're poor. You are rich. And I stand here not because I believe in somebody or someone. I stand here saying, nobody can stop this country from having the best financial growth for the next 20, 30 years. You will have to be a complete duffer to lose money the next 20, 30 years in this country. It's the best time to be alive with money and start investing. Please do that. I'm done with my TEDx talk. Thank you.
Yeah. I should also put a disclosure to that, given the larger debate that's happening about Indian regulators asking everyone who is giving financial advice to be registered with and all that, we are not responsible if you lose money. The same way, we won't get any money if you make money. Now it's time for the audience to ask questions.
Yes, please. I'd love to have those questions come in. Great. We have one gentleman already here.
So you have said that no one loses money investing in stocks for 10 years. But it is only true for indexes. If you invest in a Nifty index, it is true. But individual stocks have gone down. If you stay invested for more than 10 years. For example, if I had stayed invested in Unitech, I would have lost money even if I had stayed
So-
invested for 10 years.
Absolutely, sir. And that's a very good caveat to put because I should, being a responsible citizen, please have a seat, sir. When I say invest in the stock market, I don't mean picking stocks because that's stupid. How do I know which stock is going to work or not? Investing in the stock market means something called the index. And the safest index is called the Nifty 50 index. It's the top 50 companies on the National Stock Exchange. Your usual suspects, your Reliance, your Wipro, your TCS, your SBI, all of those companies that we know of. So you're saying, you know what? I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert for sure. I don't know which stock to pick. Why should I spend time even thinking about it? I'm just going to invest in the top 50 companies of this country. Those companies will keep changing. I will not have to bother. Somebody else will keep changing the portfolio. I'll not have to do anything. No hard work at all. I'll just invest in the Nifty 50 index and ride that. And that is where the money comes from.
So
Sir.
I have another question. I first started investing in stocks in the IPO of TCS. So it took me 20 years to make 50 lakh rupees. Last year, I made 27 lakhs from this 50 lakh.
That is it. That is it.
Yeah. So I have-
Compounding.
yeah.
Exactly. And congratulations on the TCS IPO. Like,
Next question.
that was a ball move.
Anyone else?
Next question. Yes. And then we'll come to you, Sean. Go ahead, sir.
This question might be from most of us from the 20s. Sir, earlier you told me about that. That's something called do, right? That's the problem with most of us. We have ideas, but we are not putting it to do. So sometimes, even if we have so many ideas, what happens is somebody else get it done, and we might think like, oh, that was my idea. Somebody have done that. The next day, I should work on my next idea. I should get up early. I should get the work done, everything. And you'll get that instant relief, that instant adrenaline rush for a few days. But what happens is, that'll be only for a few days. But after like some days, you'll live on that fiction, like fictional world you've created, the dream, you live on that. But it goes on, and you'll get on the low of the life again and back to square one. And that comes to a circle. So how can we get out of that circle, to be precise?
Honest question. I like that. So, how many of you here have kids below 20 years of age? How many of you have kids below 20 years? No. Not are parents of people below 20. How many of you here are parents of children whose ages are below 20? Okay, some of you. And then how old are you, dude? 28? Okay, so you're in your 20s. There's a big gap for no fault of yours and no claim to fame for your parents between how you were raised and how your parents were raised. Our parents were raised in India where we had no choice but to wait for everything. You had to wait for milk, you had to wait for phone, you had to wait for your favorite movie songs, you had to wait for electricity, you had to wait for everything. Your generation does not know how to wait. For no fault of yours, huh? You have everything on demand. So you need a book, click. You need clothes, click. You need movies, click. So you do not know what it is to actually have patience. Again, no fault of yours, huh? So your life is all about learning patience and finding out why it works or doesn't work. So this circle that you described is actually your training ground. Your training ground, which is telling you that the most important things in life come with time. And you don't have to give up just because it's not working out. Because go back to something that I mentioned, as long as you have a sense of progress, don't give up. Your outcome may still be very far away, bro. But your sense of progress is the one that will take you one step ahead every single day. So you have to be very honest with yourself asking, do I feel I'm getting better than who I was? And if the answer is yes, don't stop. If the answer is no, even if you've hit a certain outcome, stop. Because you've stopped growing. But this is a very, very important conversation to have. If you don't have this conversation, you'll keep stopping at every signal. Because you're like, bro, kuch ho hi nahi raha. And then you're like, F it, let's move on. Next thing. And you'll spend your entire 20s and 30s moving from one thing to another, one thing to another, and by the time you are in your 35 or so, midlife crisis hits hard, and then you're effed.
I think
Don't want that.
we have time for one more question.
Yes, let's do that. Ma'am,
Hi, sir.
hi.
Okay, so I have two questions.
Okay.
One is that there are cases where we get motivated and demotivated by books and films. So mostly I felt like more than getting motivated, I get demotivated some characters. Like this is what happened, what they have done like this. So if I have been in that stage that I have done something like that, so I am going to end up like that. So how to deal with that?
Why do you watch such movies?
I don't know. I preferably go for that movies and books.
See, did you see what the problem is? Here's what's happening. You are gravitating towards this, hoping that there is a different outcome, but knowing that there isn't. So you are lying to your own self. I genuinely have the best advice for you. Stop watching those movies. Not because they're bad. You're not ready for them right now. At some point in time, you will be. But the content that you consume, movies, Instagram, YouTube, Netflix, whatnot, they shape up your reality. And it is an extremely important decision for you to choose the diet for your mind. You're mindful of your diet that you eat. You don't eat random shit, no? So the same way, why would you just throw random shit in your brain? Don't. And random shit doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means you're not ready for it at that point of time.
Now the second question, like I am that person who wanted to wake up at time. So I used to sleep early, like 9:30, 10 at that time. But whatever time I sleep, I used to get up at that time I want to. But even if I put alarm, like I will put 3 or 5 alarms a day, that too with 4 minutes interval. And still I wake up after that 45 minutes.
And why do you think that is the case?
Huh?
Why do you think that is the case? Why do you wake up? What do you think is the answer?
I wanted to do what it's supposed to do in time. So I want to get up.
My answer is you're forcing yourself to wake up at that time. You don't actually want to wake up at that time.
Like I have to do some work at that time.
Perfect,
Okay.
right? So that is forcing yourself to do
Yes.
it. And if it is a force which is not coming in from a inward motivation, you will have to apply external pressure. So there are two ways of living life. You either enjoy what you do, so there is no need for motivation, or you have to do something that you don't want to do, in which case there is external pressure. These are the only two ways we work. There's no third way. So if you have to do something that you don't want to do, you will have to put external pressure. Whether it's the alarm, whether it is your parents telling you get up, whether it is your friend ringing you up, or whether it is a bet that you've made with your friend that if I don't wake up at this point, I'll pay you 500 rupees. Whatever that external pressure is that works for you, you will have to create that because that's the only way you will do something that you don't want to do. Yeah? Awesome. Time's up.
Our time's up. Thanks a lot. I think a lot of people, you're such a popular man. A lot of people want to ask you a lot more questions. I can see it on their face, I guess. I think he'll be around. You can ask him personally. But our next session, speakers have come. So we'll wrap this up. Thanks a lot.